Okay, let's just look at a couple of these examples. Let's kind of talk through, and I'm trying to decide which ones we need to look at. We'll do a few of them. Okay, first one, Brett used money he received as a gift for high school graduation to purchase $4,000 worth of shares of stock. After he graduated, he needed money to buy a car, so he sold the stock. What was his gross capital gain or loss? Okay, so we've got to do that figuring first. So 2433. Notice on this one, it's just asking what was his gross capital gain or loss. It wasn't asking for a percent. So 2433, that was the sell minus the buy, which in this case, he didn't buy it, but so a $1,500 loss. So 1567 loss. So that one, if you notice, it was just asking for what the amount was, what the value was, not a percentage. For many of these, you're going to be doing a percentage on them, right? So in many instances, you're going to be given a number of shares and then how much each share costs. So you've got to do the multiplication there to figure out what that is. She sold all her shares 9 months later for this price. What was her gross capital gain or loss? Okay, so she bought, it was 125 times what, 6824? So that's 8530, and she sold at 125 times 8589. And then when we do that math, minus 8530, so $2,206.25, and that was a gain. That was positive.
Should we specify at the end of each, like, gain? Like,
Yes, you definitely want to state whether it's a gain or a loss, right? Okay, what's another way we could have done that mathematically? Mm-hmm.
Subtracting the 68.24 from the 85.89.
Yep.
And multiplying all that
By the 125. There you go. So think about it's got to be what makes the most sense to you, which way you think through this one, right? If you want to do the 8589 minus 6824 and find what that is, and then multiply that times 125, that would work also, right? You just have to, at that point, you have to be thinking about whether it's a loss or a gain. Does that make sense, though? I hope. All right, guys, close up those screens. You guys are killing me with that. Please. Okay, let's look at a couple of these. I'm trying to think. Well, we may do all of them. Let's see. Randy paid $34.50 for shares of a corporation that manufactures cell phones, sold for this much, expresses capital gain or loss as a percent rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay, so remember, this was way back, but more or less the formula that we're going to use is the sell minus the buy over the buy. And that was kind of on the in formulas that we did. Yep, in terms of percent increase and decrease.
Why wouldn't you just do sell minus buy for this one? Like the same one that you did in number one.
Where it's not asking for the this one was just asking for a value. Let's make a note here. If you notice this one, Riley, it's a good question. If you notice, this one is asking for the percent.
Okay.
So that's the difference,
Okay.
right? Do you see that? Okay, so what was that? Let's see, 6,100 minus the 3,450, all over the 3,450. And so you get that that is about 0.768. So that is a 76.8% gain. Okay. All right, so for number 4, it kind of goes back to like how you choose to do your figuring like we did in number 2, whether you do what I showed you in the blue or whether you do what we did in the green. Let's see. Okay, I want to give you kind of both sets of numbers here for if you're thinking about this. If we're doing the sell minus the buy over the buy, then you would be doing 550 times 3580 and getting that amount, and that should be, I'm going to just write these numbers, 19690.
Wait, what's it? Is that 550 times what?
7, hold on just a second, sorry, let me write this down. 22,737. Okay, so if you do
Oh, yeah, I got it now.
41.34 times 550 and 3580 times 550, is that the right numbers? Okay. So that's the one option. The other option is to do just the single price. So 35.8 minus 41.34 all over the 41.34. So either way, on that one, you should find that it is a 13.4% loss. Truth be told, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, like for number 2, the blue makes more sense to me to do that rather than what Braden was explaining in the green. But for number 4, the green makes more sense to me. So, I mean, it's gonna kind of change as long as you kind of understand both. I think you'll be fine. It doesn't matter how many shares there are, we're just looking at the prices, right? Unless we're looking for the value, which is what we needed. And I think that's why for number 2, it makes more sense for me to think of the values of all of those shares. But on this one, you're really only looking at the price of the stocks.
Yeah, so we could just
So,
do the same thing.
yeah, gives you the same thing. Okay. I'm gonna do similar with this last one here. Purchased 1,500 shares of stock for this amount, sold them at that price. I mean, you can tell it's gonna be a gain, right? So once again, let me give you the kind of the blue way and then the green way. I'm trying to color code it for you. So 66,150 minus 38,145 all over 38,145. So that's taking the 1,500 shares times each of the prices and doing that figuring and doing your sell minus your buy over your buy. Or you can do your 4410 minus your 2543 all over And this is a 73.4% gain. That sounds pretty nice, doesn't it? Okay. What do you think? Pretty straightforward? Questions? All right, that's 8.6. We're gonna talk 8.7 also. And this is, you guys are not having to deal with this on your stock stuff, but this is part of buying and selling stocks, is that there's usually fees. So, all right. I really like this saying. That's a cool one. Anyway, person who sells shares of stocks to investors, that's a stockbroker. And the fee that the stockbrokers charge for their services, it could be a flat fee, it could be a commission, which means a percent of the trade, right? So that's the broker fee. So a flat rate just means there's just especially a lot of the like online stuff now, you just pay a flat fee of like $15 or whatever. If a commission, then that means that it's a percent of whatever the trade is, right? Percent of trade, if it's a commission. All right. Some people choose to use a discount broker or an online brokerage firm because they charge lower fees, but they don't give the advice. And they just make the transactions for you. And some people prefer to have someone to talk to about that. So some people, I have a typo there that should say choose to use a discount broker. Or an online brokerage firm. So lower fees, but you're not gonna get any ideas, suggestions, advice, that type of thing, right? All right. So net proceeds is what the term is used to basically say, how much do you make, what's your capital gain, minus those broker fees. So net proceeds means it's considering all of the different fees. Most broker fees, there's gonna be a fee for buying and for selling, so front end and back end, right? Okay, so net proceeds is the selling value minus the buying value minus all fees. And put a little note there, usually 2. Front and back end. So when you do your buying and when you do your selling, that's kind of typical. Okay, all right, so we're not gonna do all of these. I'll think about which ones I wanna look at here. Aaron purchased that amount of stock, paid his broker a 1% fee. He sold when the stock price increased to that and used a discount broker who charged $21 per trade. What are his net proceeds? Okay. So in this case, net proceeds, this is gonna be the 27.3, right? Minus, so we're looking for the difference, selling minus buying, right? But then we've got to subtract the fees. So the first fee is the 0.01 times 23,510. And then on the back end, it's that $21. So let's see how much that is. That should end up being $3,500 approximately is the net proceeds. Okay. All right. Yeah, let's look at these two. Okay. Purchased stock for 7, paid the 1.5%, sold at that price, paid a 0.5%. What are the net proceeds? You can tell on this one it's gonna be a loss, not a gain. Okay, so once again, selling minus buying. So 63.25 minus 7,000 minus 0.015 times 7,000 minus 0.005 times 63.25. And that is so loss of 800. Eight, 11, 60, whoops, 63. All right. Okay. Be careful on these last ones. This is saying what was her capital gain or loss. It's not asking net proceeds, it's asking capital gain or loss. So please be careful about the wording. Okay. So buying. It's that 200 times 18.12. Right, and then the sell was 200 times what? 21, and that's 4,200. This we know is a capital gain, right? So capital gain is going to be the 4,200 minus the 3624. Oops. All right, Ireland. So $576. And that's a gain. If you were asked to find like the capital gain or loss and then what's the net proceeds, you would take that amount and subtract that commission, right? Okay, those others are similar. Should we go through those? I think you guys are okay. I think you're good. Okay. A little bit of practice from each section on that, just to kind of work through the process, make sure you've got it. It's pretty short though, so just get it done is what I would suggest.